AskReddit by the Black Templar 125. What rules were put in place because of you? One of my favorite childhood moments sometime in 3rd grade. I got watermelons banned from handball. Watermelons in our school were when you could duck under the ball in place of hitting the ball against the wall. Only your torso or head were allowed to go under the ball and count as a watermelon. My fine moment came when I made a diving leap head first on a low hit because I knew my opponent was too far away to recover. Unfortunately, I did it face first and I slid along the gritty concrete and skinned half my face off. I had to wear a face bandage for at least a month. I made it. Everyone agreed it counted as a watermelon. I won that round and had to go to the nurse's office. 100% would do it again. The next day watermelons were banned and everybody hated me while high-fiving me at the same time. My older brother got a curfew enforced at Boy Scout camp when one of the leaders noticed him walking around the area in the daytime with his eyes closed, counting steps. He may have just been practicing being blind, but the adult assumed he was figuring out how to get around at night without lights so he could get into some kind of mischief. Which, knowing my brother, was also possible. P.S. If you're one of those people saying but you're not thinking like an 11-year-old. This sounds like some Calvin and Hobbes stuff. Minor one. But when I was in elementary school we had one of those bridge building challenges using toothpicks and hot glue. My partner and I realized if we just coated the entire thing with a thick ass layer of hot glue it would make our bridge strong as hell. So we used like a full pack of hot glue sticks, like 20 of them. It was more glue than toothpicks. So after that they limited the number of glue sticks you could use. I did something similar in school. They were having us build bridges out of dry spaghetti noodles and gumdrops. The one that held the most weight would win. It was a physics class and they expected us to build elaborate lattice structures with gumdrops anchoring the ends of each strand of pasta. The idea was probably to learn something about force and angle and such. Instead I figured out that if I squished the gumdrops into a paste with my hands, they basically became glue, and used that to turn multiple strands of spaghetti into larger rods. I won but my teacher looked pained about it. In history class in high school, there was about 10 of us really close friends. We would take every opportunity to make your mom jokes. A couple months into class the teacher made us sign a treaty promising to stop making fun of each other's moms. We signed it, and started making fun of each other's dads. Improvise. Adapt. Overcome. My mom got a library card at a new place many months before I did. When she got hers, she was welcome to check out however many books she wanted at a time, so she left with her shiny new card and 30 books for a project. When I got mine, those boots had still not been returned, and new card holders could only take out like 5 books at a time. She still has those books, so like I definitely don't blame the library. Deleted. It's so stupid that baby changing stations in men's bathrooms aren't more common. The only options you end up with are to change your baby on the floor or countertop or go into the women's restroom and hope nobody freaks out. Back when Taco Bell had the spinny game where you could win food with a nickel, dime, or quarter, I could feed my whole friend group with $3s because I could win that thing at a 90% clip by jiggling the spinner. Taco Bell then posted a piece of paper stating that individuals could only win once and that no jiggling was allowed. I got our HR box taken away at work because the HR lady threatened not to pay us if we missed a clock in or clock out. In our defense the phones didn't always work and the clock in system was really unreliable, and I printed out the law stating that was illegal, highlighted it, and put it in her box when no one was around. She threw an unholy fit and tried to figure out who put it in her box, and from then on everything had to be handed in personally. Lol. She sounds like the worst kind of HR person honestly. Like she should darn well know that's illegal. At a ballpark I worked concessions at, they had an all-you-can-eat promo day where tickets were more expensive than usual, but concessions around the stadium were free, excluding alcohol. So I worked that day and of course it was chaos. But when the line started dying down later in the game they started sending some of the hourly employees home, myself included. But of course, I didn't go home. After I clocked out, I stayed in the stadium and got some cheeseburgers and Philly steak and soda and found an empty seat in the crowd for the last few innings. Next year, same promo, but new rule for staff: if you get sent home early, you have to actually leave the stadium. Boo-hoo. You work concessions, the one free day a year, you deserve it the most. In middle school I would use Sharpies to tattoo myself. Other kids thought it was cool so I started charging $1 per drawing wherever they wanted. Principal found out and after I wouldn't stop, she put a ban on Sharpies for the entire school even the teachers couldn't bring them and I'm a tattoo artist now. I bet you did a ton of that cool S-letter thing that every middle schooler is obsessed with drawing. Deleted. It's been made easier because you can be logged into 4 Discord accounts at once now on the desktop version. And then there's a little menu to swap between them. Male students are not allowed to wear hair accessories. We had a rule about hair not touching collars, couldn't be past eyebrows, or over the ears. I grew my hair out and just put it up in headbands. After receiving multiple detentions and fighting them and winning, the next year, they made the rule. Although you could theoretically use just gel to form your hair into a beehive, or turn it into a bun, or braid it from the nape of your neck up to your forehead and then back down the center. So many choices. My junior high made a rule against yo-yos in class after I tried to do a trick and my yo-yo flew across the room and broke a glass beaker set. I'm sorry, guys. At least you didn't kill goldfish like Bart. I put a croissant in one of those hotel toasters. It soon became engulfed in flames and needed extinguishing. Next day at breakfast they made a sign that said if you'd like your croissant toasted, please ask a member of staff. How exclamation point. My elementary school was located in the center of the neighborhood, and my 5th grade class was the first to get outdoor trailers for classrooms. We'd ask for bathroom passes and then walk home. Next year they built a fence around the school. This is a keep it to yourself issue. You can't let everyone know the get out of school free trick because someone will notice if everyone is doing it. Local amusement park added a no blindfolds on roller coasters rule because of me. When I was in middle school, my friend and I thought it would enhance the overall experience if we blindfolded ourselves on the biggest roller coaster at a local amusement park. We got one of those pictures they take on the ride and there we are, blindfolded in the middle of a tunnel, having the time of our lives. Looking back, we easily could have strangled ourselves or worse because we literally just used scarves tied around our heads. Next year we went back to the same roller coaster and they had added a no blindfolds or loose accessories to the list of rules before the ride. I mean, you could also just close your eyes. But points for style. My younger brother was always late to school, small school, and was tutty. He figured out if he just skipped first period and went to second he was counted as being on school and no late penalty because he was at second period on time. They changed this the following year. PPL really need to look at what behavior the rules are encouraging. I did something similar. 5 minute late equals absent, so if I was 5 minute late I just wouldn't go. Missed a lot of school. Back in the day a radio station had a weekly trivia contest. The prize was a free pizza and movie rental. Somehow my mom figured out which book they were using for the trivia questions. She bought it and memorized all the answers. Each week we would call in immediately. Sometimes we were the first, but even if we weren't it didn't matter because other people were usually just guessing. We won almost every time. Even though we changed up who would actually make the call, they eventually figured out we were all from the same household. So they made it a rule you couldn't win if your family had already won in the last month or whatever. Up till then, we enjoyed a lot of free pizzas. Some guys at the local telephone company were called jamming any radio station giveaway in my large Midwestern city. All the stations banned any telco employee from winning. Jerry was our almost daily winner. I used to ride on the bottom area of the shopping carts at our nearest grocery store. I thought it was fun to put my hands on the front of it, sliding them along the ground while the cart was moving. Yes, I was gross. One sticky spot on the ground later and my hand was pulled back and thumb went right under the wheel. Crunched my little thumbnail and my mom had to remove it. Anyway, the store put up signs after that saying it's against the rules for kids to ride in the bottom of carts. Brain cancelled the second half of this story. No more than 4 margaritas per person on dollar margarita and amp beer night. In college, some friends and I used to go to a Mexican restaurant every Thursday, and often on Saturdays for $1 margaritas. As a group, we would go through a lot. Then they put the rule in. Then they changed it to $2 margaritas and amp $1 draft beers. Still a good deal, IMHO. No typewriters in class. I was kind of a shit kid, and while my school allowed us to use laptops, I would play video games. Primarily Warcraft 3. In class. No sound or anything, so I wasn't being a complete nuisance, but I wasn't doing my work. A teacher told me I couldn't use my laptop. I happened to have a 1950s Remington QuietWriter portable, all mechanical typewriter. It was anything but quiet, with all of the TAKKA ding you'd expect from a typewriter. After one full day of studiously taking notes and doing my assignments via typewriter, my teacher said I could use my laptop as long as I didn't bring the typewriter to class. That is aggressively following the rules. Uber expense with drinks for clients at my work. Years ago we took a bunch of clients out and everyone had way too much to drink, so I ordered everyone Ubers home. Turned in the expense report to our account manager. Just under $400 in Ubers, and she had no clue what an Uber was. I explained to my bosses that we expense drinks for clients, why not expense Ubers? Now if we pay for drinks for clients, we also pay for Ubers. This is worded suspiciously wholesome. Did they make it so if you expense drinks on the company card then you also expense Uber on the company card? Because if so, that's awesome. Oh, I was a teacher who coached debate and took the team of high school students on weekend tournament trips. I had new rules every year and my co-coach and I privately called them the name of the student. For example, the Jess rule was that if you assaulted anyone, you were sent home. The Annie rule was no debating and fake accents. There was the Dylan rule, which was no communal porn watching in the hotel rooms. Jess rule number 2 was do everything you can to vomit into the garbage can or toilet and not on the floor. Jess rule number 3 was no yelling at nurses in the ER that you are a virgin when they ask you to take a pregnancy test. Jess rule number 4 was we can cut you off after 12 minutes of no stop talking. Jess was a character, obviously. Did Jess take these rules in stride? The dual major on my degree is no longer offered after I proved it would have been logistically impossible to graduate with it without my specific transfer credits. I'm confused. Did the school offer a degree program but did not have all the classes necessary to fulfill it? I am curious. And what was the dual major? Freshman year of high school, I had to give an oral presentation on a random Greek god. This was at a Christian school. For context, I got Dionysus, so naturally I spent many hours researching on YouTube how to act drunk. Wasn't much of a partier, so I didn't know, and pretended to be absolutely wasted for my presentation. It was a great success, but my teacher unsurprisingly banged Dionysus for the following years. It didn't help that Dionysus was basically the god of orgies and bestiality too, if I remember correctly. Oh man, that teacher at $ and amped D up. How does a teacher assign a project on Dionysus without realizing what the material would be like? The dude was basically the Greek god of crazy parties. Local job center no longer has working USB ports on public PCs because I found private files on multiple PCs with far too much private information about strangers. That seems like a really drastic solution. They could just make a script that erases the publicly accessible folders on a schedule. Most libraries and stuff that I've been to do that. So if you copy a document to the desktop, it gets removed within hours. They also make it clear that nothing stored on the computer is kept permanently. Military school I went to. After me, an adult is required to check the parade cannon to ensure it is clear, and closely monitor the students as they load it. There is to never be another flaming rubber chicken flying over the parade grounds ever again. Circa 1989. Freaking legend. Don't trick your siblings or friends into eating soap. I would cut bars of Dove soap in 2 pieces, wrap them in old candy wrappers, and pretend like they were mints. I was 8 or 9. Whenever we would have dinner at a restaurant as a kid, I'd convince my younger siblings that the butter squares were butterscotch candies. Mum banned that after a few months. No citing the Geneva Conventions or accusing management of war crimes. IDK sounds like a war crime to me. Not me but a co-worker. The whole company now requires that if you have a lanyard for your name tag it must break away on the back because she got it caught on a top shelf and it choked her. I worked at Ups and they required breakaway lanyards. I found out the hard way why this was required. My lanyard got caught under a package I put on a belt and it wasn't breaking away like it should. Next thing I know I'm moving with the belt and it's choking the shit out of me. Luckily it eventually broke off like it should so I wasn't really hurt but it was a terrifying experience.